G'day everyone. I went through a phase of wanting a nice field watch, and I thought I'd found it once when I got myself a Hamilton Khaki King. And it was a great watch, but I did feel it was a bit underwhelming and at the same time a bit too nice to wear as a beater, so I flipped it. But that field watch itch still needed scratching, so during my AliExpress browsing I stumbled on this Baltany Dirty Dozen homage. It looked the opposite of cheap and nasty, the reviews were glowing, it was affordable enough so I wouldn't feel guilty about getting rough and dirty with it. So I threw my cash at it, and 2 weeks later it landed at my door and on my wrist. So let's check this piece out. So to start off with the specs, we've got a case diameter of 35.6mm or 38.7mm with the crown, a lug-to-lug tip of 43.1mm, a 12mm case thickness, a lug width of 18mm, and with the nylon strap it comes in at 58 grams, and also comes with 100 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, Seiko VD78 quartz movement, and the price is roughly about 150 Australian dollars depending on specials and exchange rates. So the thing I love about this watch is that it is insanely comfortable to wear. With its smaller dimensions and lightweight, it almost disappears on your wrist, and sometimes you'll forget you're even wearing it. The smaller dimensions may not appeal to those of larger wrists, but it's nice to have a watch in your collection that doesn't look or feel like a lead weight on your wrist. And the lugs only have a small amount of curve and a smooth finish on the edges, which prevents them from digging into your wrist. The entire case has a smooth sandblasted finish, save for the sterile case back, which has a more polished look. The surfaces have a high quality appearance to them and, unsurprisingly, give the watch a very tool-like look. It may be small and light, but the case feels solid and ready for action. Reinforcing this feeling of sturdiness is a screw-down crown and 100 meters of water resistance. So, with the exception of scuba diving, you can pretty much take this watch anywhere and it'll survive nearly anything you throw at it, including the rigors of weekend gardening. Moving on to the dial, and I guess if you've seen one Dirty Dozen homage, you've seen them all. You've got pencil-shaped hour and minute hands filled with yellowish lume to give it that vintage look. The hands are well sized for this watch, being legible enough but not crowding that small dial. And that lume colour is also used on the 5-minute markers on the edge of the dial, with smaller circles being used at the 5 and 10-minute intervals, and a slightly larger rectangular marker at the 3, 6 and 9 o'clock positions. The 12 o'clock point has the meat and potatoes markers, with a rectangular and 2 small circular points on each side. Running through these and around the outer dial is a white minute track. Moving further in, you've got the Arabic numerals at each hourly position, with the exception of 6 o'clock, which is replaced with the second subdial. I love how the subdial doesn't cut into the 5 and 7 numerals, as this gives a clean, more symmetrical look to the dial, and the hand on the sub-seconds dial, like its bigger stablemates, is easy enough to read at a pinch without being too loud. The Baltany name is done tastefully, albeit simply, under the 12 o'clock numeral, and keeping to tradition is the arrow logo just underneath that. And I think this sums up the appeal of this watch. The appearance and proportions on the dial are very well done. Nothing is too big or obnoxious or too small to require a magnifying glass. The screw-down mechanism on the crown is a nice bonus, especially as it's easy to screw and unscrew and set the time with. Added to the bonus list is the slightly domed sapphire crystal, which adds a small element of warping to the edge of the dial. The included strap is a black NATO style with sandblasted buckle and keepers, keeping to the theme of the case finish. And the comfort and durability factor is a nice balance. Strong enough to last a while, but also good to wear. And with an 18mm lug width, there's a fair few strap options available. Or, if NATOs aren't your bag, you can opt for a leather strap instead when you're purchasing this. And finally, the lume. For a very affordable field watch, the lume is pretty strong. I was so impressed with it, I wanted to put it up against my Seiko tuner. The hour markers and other indices hold on okay initially, but lose much of their brightness after around 15-20 minutes. But the hands hold on pretty well. And, well, yeah, the Seiko well and truly wins, but to be fair, Seiko does set the benchmark for awesome lume. Plus, this Baltany's lume is better than even some divers I've owned previously. And look, to be honest, I'm really struggling to say anything bad about this watch. For the price I paid for what I got, it's really damn good. Although I do have some nitpicks and one point to consider. The sub-seconds hand doesn't strike the seconds indicators perfectly, but to be honest, you'd have to look very closely to notice it, so even the most fastidious eye probably wouldn't care. The dial is clean and classic, but the absence of complications and its tried and true vintage look may be too same old for some. The variation of C3 loom on the hands and shaped indices and the BGW9 on the Arabic numerals and subseconds hand might throw some people, although the color variation makes it easy to separate the hands and Arabics. The sterile caseback leaves a lot to the imagination, but then again, some wearers may prefer this, and having a cyan crown with a slightly larger size for better grip would have been ideal. But again, given the price point of the Baltany, these really are nitpicks, not actual problems of the watch itself. But now the big thing to consider, you are paying $150 for a minimalist watch with a quartz movement, albeit a Seiko one, with no other bells and whistles. If all you really want is a beater or casual watch and the vintage aesthetic isn't a big deal for you, there are other more established brands and pieces out there that will give you that at a much lower price, or many other features and greater durability specifications for a pinch more money. But at the end of the day, would I recommend this Quartz Dirty Dozen homage? Absolutely. For me, it strikes a fine balance of being a quality, versatile, and inexpensive timepiece that looks great, can be worn almost anywhere, and one I'm not afraid of getting dirty or damaged. If you own a Baltany, or even a Hamilton, or a similar field watch, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching, eh?